Yeah, so my adrenaline was just going like running. So if you imagine that whole flight and fight response that you get, that was going on my body 24 hours a day.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Win the Hour, Win the Day. I am your host, Chris Ward, and I am totally pumped for this today. We have a really special treat. It's something we've never done before. And we've got Christine Nicholson in the house. And let me explain what we're going to do. But first of all, welcome to the show, Christine.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this too.
Oh, good. This is a treat for me. Okay. Christine is an amazing talent in her own right, and she works with really successful businesses that are ready to sell. So she's what we call an exit and succession planner. That's easy enough to say, right? And does business mentoring. So Christine, you deal with companies that, are going to sell for millions of dollars, and you're helping them get prepped and ready to exit. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's all about getting them out of the day-to-day, letting them hand over control, and then looking at how they can transfer the ownership. So sounds easy?
Oh, it doesn't sound easy. But what I think is fascinating is when you and I met, because you are a client of mine, when you and I met, you were, and I think you allow me to say this affectionately, a little bit of a hot.
Yeah.
And you, in fact, you missed the first two meetings and you wanted to work with me, and normally this happens. People miss the first one because they're showing up, they're out of control. And because they're people like you, where they've had a lot of success, they've got a lot of clients and they can't keep on top of it. And you pretty much very articulately begged me to say, please, I promise this third time, I promise I'll be there. And I really say you showed up with your hair on fire and you said openly to me, Chris, look what I do for a business. How are you going to help me? This is what I do for other people. How could you possibly make a difference in my business? And you were working insane hours, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, in a short period of time, you are now going away shortly after the recording of this interview for a month. You have been away several times throughout the year for weeks at a time. Yep. You would be the first to tell me, and you'll dive into this a little bit more, that I say my clients always say they get 25 hours back a week within the first month of working with us. And you would say too, that on top of that, that has allowed you the bandwidth to double your income. So your hours decrease and your income doubled.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a quadruple impact.
Okay. So because it does always sound to people like this is crazy. Everybody thinks their business is different. Like, you don't understand, Chris. I'm the one that has to do this. I have to do that, whatever. And I constantly say business should be fun. It should support your life instead of consuming it. And I also say too, that people don't understand that the ramifications it has on the business, how you're choking, you're deteriorating your lifestyle, you're adding stress to yourself. You're also limiting your income. And also you water down your profits, because what is a profit if you now have to work 16 hours to make it? If somebody pays you $1,000 for an hour, that's great. But if you're working to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, that $1,000 bleeds out really quickly. So let's talk about some of the things that you were shocked or surprised about, or that this process enlightened you.
And I think the first thing was that I knew I needed some business support. But so it wasn't that I was saying, oh, there's only me that can do this. I knew other people could do things. I just didn't want to have a whole load of babies to look after. And when I ran companies where I was employing hundreds of people, and I had all the structure in place. Now all of a sudden the structure is me. And therefore it would be me doing the onboarding, me doing the training, me doing the nagging and the making sure things got done. And I didn't really understand what getting proper help and being trained how to get the help working so that it was helping me, not dragging me down. And the one thing this was the biggest thing. This is the thing, the key that turned the lock, that allowed everything else to happen, was you literally throwing some poor girl in front of me, because the first one we cut the gum to be really short, but some poor girl in front of me going, will this one do? And I am understating it there, but it's just like, you weren't taking any messing around. You need help. This is the kind of person that we think needs to help you. Let's get into an interview. Within 4 minutes, it's, you know what, let's stop this. This isn't working. I can see there's no connection there. We'll find you someone else. And already that was not a months-long process.
I forgot about that. Let me jump in for a second. So we do hire and onboard for our clients in the winner circle. So what happens is we will go out and find someone for you and you get the final say. And that's really interesting to me, Christine, because you were the only person ever that almost 100% of the time when I introduced them to someone, it was a great fit. And I didn't think that one was a great fit, but then we found you someone 2 weeks later and you loved her, but it was really interesting. You're right. I stopped it and said, no, I don't think this is working. And that didn't change your confidence in it, but yeah. And then we put that person in front of you because that's what we do. And then you just rolled with it once we found the right one.
Yeah. And just knowing that the interview process, you don't book an hour-long interview in.
No,
it's like that. It's just it's a killer for my energy. It would have been a killer for hers. And so there were so many things that interview was just bang, because what's the really important thing? What do you like doing? What do you not like doing? What do I want you to do? And the fact is that Rika, my lady, turned up at 3 o'clock in the morning
for her interview.
Because
your time zone, her done. Because your meeting with me was at that time. I do not believe that outsourcers should work overnight. We don't do that. They can be around the morning. If you set them up independently, they don't need to be working your full day, which is their overnight. However, your appointment with me was scheduled. And so that's when they had to show up for the interview. So she's in an interview, which I could not get a job as a janitor at 3 o'clock in the morning. So yes, Rika showed up and she amazed you, and it's been a roaring success ever since, right?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has. And any wrinkles, because when you're getting to know someone, there's always a few wrinkles, but all of the wrinkles have been caused by me not following the processes, me being passive, not leading, and me being...
We coached you on, so you don't have to figure that out yourself. We pointed that out to you when there was wrinkles. It was because you were not leading, and we were showing you how to instill independence with her.
And that, again, that moved things on so much quicker than would otherwise have done. And the calls with you that I had were regular enough to really get on top of these things. You take no prisoners, which is what I really like, because that's what I'm like with my clients. And I would say something and you'd go, whoa, you just back that one up. This is really important. We need to come back to this, because if you're letting that slide, if you're turning up like this, then this is what's going to happen. And actually really showing me, particularly that in a small organization, there is nowhere to hide. And not just for the people that are working for me, but also for me. And therefore, I am very visible. When you're working where I had 400 employees, for example, it was really easy for them to see slices of me. Rika sees all of me. And it's like every relationship, it takes some time to build, but it's always been really positive. And every time we move on, I'm always just amazed by that next step. It's, wow, I thought it was really good before, and now it's even better.
It's really interesting to me too, because this is the part where I want to unpack a couple really important things that you said. First of all, thank you for your compliments about I take no prisoners, because I do think the kindest thing you could give somebody is the truth. And I also think too, that there's little things, like I remember one time I was jogging. I don't do it anymore. I hate jogging, whatever, but I was jogging home and I was doing a run and I could see my home. It was like 2 kilometers, like I could see down the street, maybe 2 minutes away. Right. And I had this little pebble in my shoe and I said, oh, Chris, that's just you looking for an excuse to stop because you hate jogging, but you know what? It's a workout. Blah, blah, blah. And I gave myself this big thing and I got home, took the pebble in my shoe. But I had this huge blister the next day just from pushing through. And then I couldn't exercise for a week. Those little pebbles become big things really quickly. And that's also something I talk about all the time. I think you'll know the ending to this story is I say, look, if you were in an ocean liner with 500 people and something happened on that ship, you're going to assume that 100 or 200 people are going to be useful and you're going to be okay with that. But if you're in a rowboat with 1 or 2 other people, you better have a bloody good team. So people often confuse when you have a small team that there's no culture, but you need that culture more than anything. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I say that to my clients, I always say, if you were starting again, who are the 5 people that you'd put in the rowboat or in the lifeboat? Because that would be the culture that you would be wanting to grow if you were starting again. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing, really. But yeah, it's
I
that
think
journey has been smoother than I anticipated and a whole lot less pain. I was going to make it really complicated. You made it really simple.
I think what's out there, the corporations and where we were all raised as employees, and it's still like standard out there, is that you hire someone and then you check on their work like a parent to a child, a teacher to a student, and then you create yourself another job and then you resent it because you're like, I hired you because I can't keep up with my work and now I'm supposed to check your work. And what my whole thing is that, no, we're setting it up so that they support and take care of you. You do not need another job. And that formula that we've all been held prisoner to, that's what's wrong with that. So I think when we found you someone to work with you, we had a completely different way of implementing how you'll work together. And that's where you started getting so much more robust free time. And as you say, clear thinking, and then it allowed you to go out and bring in more revenue. So I think, to be fair, that's all everyone sees out there.
Yes, yeah. And the client contact that Rika has, the feedback I get is always amazing. Can you clone her? Where can I get one? Does she have a sister? It is that kind of stuff. She makes me look good.
And you know what's really interesting about that? I get that too from my other clients, where people say, could we share her, whatever, because they're so amazed with the supports they have. And then I've had a few clients where I had one client and her assistant moved on that we had found for her, wanted to move on because she got pregnant. She's a high risk pregnancy. And there was all these things that she just felt she needed to now be staying at home. My client, Karen, was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I had this amazing person. I said, it's the process, not the person. Like, she's great, but we'll get you somebody else. And she couldn't believe that this person was just as amazing, if not better. And she goes, I just thought, I want people to understand, it's not like you found this magical spouse or partnership. They may be great, but it's the setup, and the setup can be duplicated again and again.
Yeah. And over the period of time, it's the one thing that has really been rock solid in our working relationship, because Rika is absolutely a process person, but she has this element of creativity, and we've managed to work a process so that the stuff that she really enjoys, you can still do, but she also gets the opportunity to really exercise some of that creative muscle. And she's self-taught with graphic design, but she does great design for me. And it's just been something that gives her a bit more satisfaction. But when I did her first quarterly review and I said, what could we do better? And she was really clear, you could follow the process.
Okay, 2 things right there. One is, we do teach you how to do these powerful quarterly reviews that are very insightful, that are done differently than any sort of evaluation done in the workplace. And 2, that does lend itself to what we call the super toolkits. And that if you use the super toolkits effectively, they will constantly compress your time, because we're always looking for that win formula, 60% execution, 40% admin, so that you can be moving on to the next thing. Because you certainly can vouch for, you have no shortage of ideas, you need the bandwidth, you need to be constantly compressing the admin so you can get to the next thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I was told that today, she said, I don't know what you did this year, she said, but you're all over social media all of the time in a really good way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, we've just got a process for it. And I get told monthly what I need to produce for the next 8 weeks, and we're always on an 8-week rolling cycle. And if it's coming up to 7 weeks before I need to produce something, I get almost like a flashing light going, this needs to be done, because I can't be delayed because of your lack of planning.
Yeah, she's not gonna let you slow. That's the thing. She won't let you slow down, because that's how we have it set up, is you're not there to babysit her. So she will make sure that the pieces are put in play, because if not, it's on her. I always give the example of, if, for example, we have an email broadcast to go out on Thursday and you say, oh, Chris, I need a picture. And then I don't get you the picture. you cannot look at me Monday and say you didn't get the picture. That's on you to make sure you get it from me. So we're not here to babysit you. You are here to take care of us. And that's easy enough done with the super toolkits and all the things we even play. It's not putting them in a position where they parent you like Ethel in the 50s when she was the assistant to the secretary to the doctor. We don't do that. So I think, so let's take the transformation again really quickly. So you showed up, you missed up the first 2 appointments. You showed up like your hair was on fire.
Yeah. I was going to say, it wasn't just my hair on fire. Every end was on fire.
Every end was on fire. And then you even talked about before we started here too, that you were on meds to manage your adrenaline.
Yeah. So my adrenaline was just going like running. So if you imagine that whole flight and fight response that you get, that was going on my body 24 hours a day, because I literally didn't know how to switch off. And about 6 months in, I suddenly realized that I hadn't taken my supplements for a couple of weeks. And it was like, oh, is this what this is? So this is what it's supposed to feel like. It's like, this is what normal feels. And of course, 6 months in, I took my first month off and nobody noticed. And that was just extraordinary.
A whole month, people. That's a month.
Yeah, a whole month. And I was hiking in the Rockies. So it wasn't like I could be checking my phone. Like that just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So everything.
A real month, not like you somewhere answering emails from a different location. I'm on vacation. I check my emails in the morning. I'm pretty good for a couple hours. You took a whole month off, and now you're taking another whole month off where you will be like, I don't even know where, Muktuk nowhere, Costa Rica somewhere, Chile, whatever. No, you're no connection, and you're set up to do that from the person who couldn't make an appointment and on adrenaline meds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget the quadruple effect, which is I double my income in all of that time. Yeah. And I have a rhythmic acquisition of clients, and I'm all over the various socials that I do use. And I've managed to build 2 really solid strategic partnerships that will allow me to deliver, again, another raft of support and delivery without actually not only not increasing my hours, actually halving my hours. Now, I now track the hours that I work on client delivery and in support. And I've gone from working well over a 60-hour week to typically working a 20-hour week, which, and tracking it, it's like bonkers.
And we talked about that with looking at your calendar different, you treating it like your time bank account, using super toolkits, and then having a team. And a team is not a number person. It's not about a number. It's about philosophy. So right now you have Rika, that's one person, that's your team. But what I'm so passionate about, this isn't about me, but what I'm so passionate about is when I have people like you and you generously, kindly say, I've changed your life, or I have people tear up saying, Chris, I didn't know in what bad state I was or how I was neglecting my health, and the ability to fall back in love with your business and to take care of yourself again and to wake up. I call it like a recovering addict. Like I still to this day, because I did it many years ago, the first couple of years I was in business and all that stuff. And I never get tired of waking up rested. Oh my gosh, it feels good to feel good, doesn't it? Instead of you dragging your empty, hollow body around so tired to try and like you're nauseous. And thinking that once you get past this next thing, once you say, once I get past this next thing, that's a problem. And I thought that, and you thought that. And that's why I wanted you here, is because I want people to understand, like, you really had to convince me, because who's the fool? When you miss 2 appointments to work with me, 1, okay, you show up with me because you're a hot mess. It happens because you need my help. I get it. 2, now how dumb am I going to look at the 3rd meeting when you don't show up? So you had to really sweet talk, do a passionate email, and now you're somebody taking a friggin' month off twice a year. That's a leap.
Yeah. And even just thinking about how I live, I'm going to do yoga after this. That's why I'm dressed like this. Now, I would have normally been doing restorative yoga, what I call blanket yoga. I lie on the floor wrapped in a blanket and hope that the underfloor heating doesn't switch off. But I'm not doing that now. I actually have energy to do something a bit more physically, not necessarily demanding, a bit more physically engaging. And actually, I don't have to do that switch on, switch off. Like, I don't have to consciously think about trying to switch off. Just switch off. And the only reason I'm doing this, it's gone 7 here, in the UK right now. And that's the only reason that I am sat at my desk, is to do this.
It's to do a favor for me. Yeah. Because it's not your
You know,
lifestyle anymore.
Wouldn't be. I do have a client in Canada, on the other side of Canada as well. And I've got a couple of American clients. So I do time differences, but oh my God, I used to do starting at 8 in the morning and finishing at 10 or 11 or even midnight at night, because I just could never get the right time, the time difference thing sorted. And I couldn't get that organized. And then on top of that, I then have to do what I would call evening admin. Don't do any of that anymore. There is literally no admin that I do, because everything that is a process that can be done and again is in the toolkits, and it just gets done. And we have a 20-minute conversation 3 or 4 times a week. And it's what's on the agenda for today. What do we need to progress? What ideas have come up? What have I failed at is the most common one. But even things like, I got a couple of comments this week about being a great podcast guest, because when I get invited onto a show, I put socials out about, wow, I can't believe I've been invited to this show. I put socials out about, wow, I've just recorded a brilliant show today. Then I put the socials out about, my podcast has gone live, listen. And then a month later, I do another one going, you might not have caught this a month ago, but not only was I on it, let's face it, I'm a great guest, but also there's been some other amazing guests, because I only go on shows that have great guests. So there's been these other great guests, and I was really privileged to be a guest on this. And then 6 months on from that, I go, don't forget, podcast is forever. It's not just for Christmas. And I can do that now, which means I'm really showing up.
Because you could do that now because you don't do it. Right?
I literally turn up for the show. I'm like the talent. You wheel me on and go, ah, and then you wheel me off, and I'm back in the dressing room having the gin, and somebody else is clearing up all the mess.
And because that's one of the things with our super toolkits, is lots of times we'll have things that we perfected over the years, and we just give you the super toolkits. We teach you the concept, so you know how to do these things yourself. But that's when I had showed you, I believe, the copy of, hey, just copy and paste the copy. You're only going to speak of one of so many different topics. And then you can pick from 7 different pieces of copy, like, hey, I did this amazing show today. The time flew. We talked about. So we gave you all that. Rika implemented it. And now, not only do you get to show up and not have to do all the pre and post work, and you're an amazing guest, but then you're aligning yourself and really appreciating and recognizing the host who gave you an opportunity, and you're doing more socials than most people, but it's all systematized so easily and effortlessly, and you don't even have to do it. And so it's win, right?
Yeah. And it allows me to turn up completely authentically every time, because I'm not being that Jekyll and Hyde. Here's how I'd like to be, and then I've got to do all the grunt work that I really don't like doing. And here's the best thing. And this was, again, first quarterly review. And I remember talking to you about it, getting prepared. And I went to do the review, and I said, just tell me, what is the tasks that I've given you that have made you happiest? And lo and behold, she told me that the one thing that she really enjoyed doing was the thing that I liked the least. Right. And I've been giving her this task and apologizing. I'm really sorry I'm giving this to you. Got to do it. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry I'm giving this to you. She absolutely loves it. I've stopped apologizing.
Yeah, and that brings itself to the way we set up the quarterly reviews, because it's very different than an employee evaluation. And so it is set up so that you can learn and be much more insightful. And I've had that experience as well with my team, thinking, oh, somebody has to do it and I don't have time. And then I find out the way the questions are set up to so encourage them, and that for you to really get to know them better, they like this and that. And you're like, oh my gosh, okay, great. We can have more of that. Like, it's just a collaborative opportunity to move together faster and to be even a tighter team. So it's a whole, everything we do is really opposite of what is done traditionally out there. And I think too, Christine, you bring up a really good point, that so many of us have done that. I used to call it trying to hide hysterical Chris, that I would show up, like, you're right, maybe to a meeting and think, okay, I had to run around and do all this paperwork before I went to the meeting, and I have to switch gears now because I couldn't find that piece of paper. I was all stressed about it, but here I am, and blah, blah, blah. And now you're trying to look calm and soothing and smile, but your jaw is clenched. And so you're right, back in the day, you may have shown up for these podcasts, but you might not have been 100% sure which one it was, and you forgot the form, and did I fill out the form, and let me find my bio, and you're all rattled. That can't make you a great guest. And now you show up And you get to have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah. And it just, everything about life is easier.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was on my call with Rika this morning, and we're getting ready for me not to be around in January. My goodness me, did I try and make things complicated? And she's just looking at me, and I realize it's like, I'm making this really difficult, aren't I? Yeah. She's like, yes. So sometimes you have to backslide. I'm going to use the word backslide. You have to find yourself going backwards a bit, and then you recognize it in yourself. And with Rika, she just lets me burn myself out, because I think she knows that's the best way, mainly because I do burn myself out in less than 3 minutes, because I've got the attention span of a gnat. Literally, like, my attention span is less than 2 minutes.
So the burning yourself out is different than what we're thinking. Like, you're not burning out. You're saying, I realize now with the supports and the super toolkits we have in play, you now see yourself more clearly, much quicker. Yeah. So then it's not something where you would have went in and spent all Sunday trying to fix something. Now you realize by this infrastructure we have in play in your business, that when you go off and you realize, oh, that last 3 minutes sounded, I over-organized that. I made this too complicated. Okay, I'm back. Right. Yeah, so when you kind of like a GPS, when you're off route, they'll tell you really quickly, like, off route, get back. Okay. All right. Yeah. Instead of being lost for 2 hours.
And actually it's getting me thinking in the super toolkit way. So I was trying to come up with this really complex thing. And at the same time, my sensible brain was going, how do you fit that in the super toolkit? At which point I'm like, okay, messy old Christine over here. And I know I should be over here, because like tidy process over here. And it's just because the mess is so contra to the organization of the super toolkit. And I actually, even this morning, like, I had all these tasks that I hadn't ticked off as done, because I hadn't put the right tag on, I hadn't set it up properly on my phone. Okay. And so on the desktop, which I don't often use, on the desktop, all these tasks were ticked off. And it's not that I hadn't done them, I just hadn't ticked it off. Well, that's not in the process. So my bad again. No, I'm not being in the process. So then you have to go through and tick them off. So actually there's constant reminders that this really quick and easy way to do things, this process, is there to save me time. Yeah. And every now and again, you might fall off the wagon a bit, but you soon get back on, because when you're not in the process mode, life gets really difficult really quickly.
It sobers you up. Yeah.
And because you're used to walking the line, which has taken a while to get used to, it's okay, this feels really uncomfortable. All that mess that I used to, and the chaos that I used to be used to, I'm not comfortable with that anymore, because it is just, and it is like being in the path in the forest, and you've got the well-worn path, and then you go off piste a bit, and then you realize that actually you're hacking your way through with the machete. Just get back on the path. And so you're signposting for behavior to get back on the path, because we've been through this before, is if it feels difficult, then you're probably making it too complicated. And it's the joy here is simplicity always wins. Always.
And I think too, a lot of people, what will say to me is, oh my gosh, Chris, I'm so stressed out. I don't know what to, like, how much time will this take? Because they're already working 60-hour days. And I keep saying to them, like, listen, this is going to give you time back every week. This is not something you show up, you do some work, I cheer you on. And that is, I think, really important, because so many people don't understand, like, that every week you went for relief and think, oh my gosh, I've never had this. This is great. I didn't work this weekend. Oh my gosh, I didn't work evenings. And you just got a constant improvement and relief, and that you saw time differently then. And so you're right. The moment you say, oh, I'm uncomfortable and I just feel myself rushing around for 30 minutes. Normally I rush around for 30 hours. I don't like this. I'm not doing this. So it's I think it's a really important thing that you brought up too, is your constant ability moving forward to get more and more time back.
And I remember one of the key things right at the very beginning, because you said that I am not going to make you work harder. Yeah. You are just going to work smarter. And I remember when I started using some of the tools you recommended, and you said, look, I can recommend a couple. And I remember you recommended 2, one of which was 20 times more expensive than the other. Okay. And you said, it's up to you which one you use. Go and figure it out. Don't spend more than 10 minutes on each. And I was literally like, I would have gone and done hours of learning each one to figure it out. But nope, 10 minutes on each, and I picked the one that was 20 times more expensive, which actually has in the long run worked out cheaper. It was quicker to learn, it was easier to use. And I don't have to think about, oh, do I need to sign on for more? It's just one price and that's it. But I would have taken, and now my tolerance for learning new things, it's if I don't get this, it's like, if this isn't like an iPhone, get it out and switch it on and I can intuitively use it. Yeah, no, you're taking up too much of my time, move on, I need something else.
Yeah, that's a really important lesson. So what you were talking about, because almost everything we show you is free or next to free. So you get a lot of use out of your calendar, which is free. However, you do have to have a project management platform. You cannot be running systems or anything like that through emails. That is just a hot mess. It will never work. You have to reread all the emails to see which came. It's just, it will not work. So there was 2 platforms, and one I'm like, this one costs more, but it's simpler to use. But I think you're right. The key I said is, when you do research on this, if you can't make a decision in 5 or 10 minutes, then this is not the product for you. And I said, the old Chris and the old Christine, you would have spent all Sunday researching and giving yourself a headache. You'd be exhausted Monday. I'm like, no, if they can't convince you that they're the product in 5 or 10 minutes, then they're not the product. But even more to that, any tool other than that one tool, I said, look, everything should be free, next to free, and you should be able to learn it in 5 minutes. So it's not about more tech. More tech isn't the answer. Like, more tech is not going to, you can give me, as I always say, it's like a carpenter. If you hire a carpenter, maybe he's going to do it faster with a power tool. However, you give me a power tool, you are not going to like my carpentry work. The tool is not going to fix what I lack in skills. Right? Yeah. So that's the whole thing. Oh my gosh. I could talk to you all day, just because I'm so thrilled at the progress you've made, because you were in a very stressful situation when we met. And now you're taking a month off to have what some people would describe as a trip of a lifetime. And you've fallen back in love with your business. You've doubled your income. You've cut your hours down to 1/4. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your insights on your journey, because I truly think that business should be fun. And it should support your life, not consume it. So I am determined to create a movement, and your message will add to that, because you even said, I'm only here. I think somebody recommended you to me, and you said, I still don't understand how you can help me, Chris. You know what I do for big companies? Like, how are you going to help me? And here you are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, the lady who recommended me, she said, I can't tell you what Chris is going to do for you. I just know. This was somebody I met randomly on LinkedIn. It was like the second conversation that we'd had, and she just came right out and went, you need Chris. So I'm just going to recommend her. She said, because this is exactly what you need. Just don't ask me about it, because I'm not going to be able to explain it, but that's what you need. And I don't even classify it as a leap of faith, because it just wasn't. I listened to your podcast for a few episodes, which I managed to listen to while I was trying to go to sleep.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, that didn't work. Often, so I do listen to podcasts and quite often fall asleep to them. But yeah, so I thought, I'll just listen to a few podcasts and see. And at the end of it, I still didn't have any idea what was going to change. But my whole life changed. And I think it didn't just change for me. The benefit changed for my clients, because they get a much better Christine turning up than they used to. And I think that's why I've got more clients, because I can handle more clients, because I'm still turning up. Absolutely. The Zen Christine, who's completely focused and present for them, because I'm not thinking about anything else. And so the brain space has just been extraordinary. And interesting. It's not the holiday of a lifetime. It's the holiday of this January.
That's right. Look at her own it. Yes, it's not the holiday of a lifetime. It's just my next holiday. 100%. Yeah, we thank you so very much, Christine, for sharing your message, because you're right. Business should be fun. And I'm just so glad you were kind enough to let people know, it's a whole different game, and you just wake up rested and eager for more and taking on the next ambition. So thank you again for trusting us with your journey. We so appreciate you. And if somebody does know someone that is looking for exit and succession planner, or any more of your brilliance, where would they find you?
So my website is businessmentoruk.com, but I do operate globally and have the capacity to do so now. And so most of my stuff is on my website. And it is, if you're thinking of exiting anytime in the next 3 to 5 years, then you probably need to come and speak to me right now. And certainly have no obligation, call, because I can point you in the right direction, even if you're not ready now.
Yeah, awesome. All right. See everyone else in the next episode. And thank you, Christine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.